when it comes to Charlie Kirk, they can condemn the violence out of one side of their mouth, and then on the other side, they can say that, well, but he was a racist, misogynist Nazi.
The Antifa and BLM riots of 2020 was the largest scope and scale of political violence, sustained political violence that we've seen in modern U.S. history.
I think that was incredibly irresponsible of Kamala Harris. I think that contributed. I could say you could even tie this directly to her and other politicians who retweeted this stuff for all of the violence that came out of anyone bailed out by that fund.
We have two contrasting things happening right now. We have Gavin Newsom, who, when the protests happened, said, I condemn them. It should be peaceful. And they were arrested. They were not released. They were arrested. Now, they may be released on bond, but for various
doing violent crimes against police officers.
No, I'm not done talking, Andrew. I know. I'm glad. But see, here's the crazy thing about this is, as Andrew's laughing, he doesn't realize that there's a other contrast to this, which is Donald Trump, who has not condemned, quite frankly, the Jan 6 things. And even if he did, it's contrasted by the fact that he actually pardoned them. So if he actually cared about that, and he did care about political violence on his side, then he would probably let the justice system work its way through. But we know that Donald Trump doesn't really care. In fact, he's actually called Kamala Harris a fascist, a communist, a Marxist. We've seen Stephen Miller saying the same thing, echoing the same thing. Yet I haven't heard anybody mention anything about Donald Trump saying those words. Because it's okay when the right does it, but when the left does it, somehow now it's all sorts of crazy.
Yeah, right? So you have
There's lots of lies. There's lots of lies there. I mean, first
totally.
Where's the lies?
You said he didn't condemn it. January 7th, he released a statement saying, "I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem.
So outraged,
I immediately deployed the National Guard."
I thought he didn't condemn him 5 seconds ago, you lying gutless fuck.
Guys, both of you
is that condemning? Is that condemning?
I don't call it condemning if he ends up, and I don't call it condemning if he ends up after the fact pardoning.
Okay, do you know how much violence actually was on January 6th? Do you know how much violence actually was there?
There was probably, I think there was over 100 people that were charged. There was about 170 people charged with assaulting a law enforcement officer.
Were any of them charged with insurrection, fuckhead?
60.
No, none of them were charged with insurrection, fuckhead. Not a single one.
170 people were charged with assault.
Were there any of them charged with insurrection?
Andrew, you're boxing shadows right now. No one's talking about insurrection.
Yes, that's what you guys just said. You just said it was a seditious insurrection 5 seconds ago.
It's a seditious conspiracy. That's not the same thing.
Oh, so it wasn't an insurrection?
I said it was seditious.
So what? I just want to be clear. Then it wasn't an insurrection.
I'd say that any definition.
I don't know what this has to do with any of the.
I just want to make sure that we're clear. Was it an insurrection or not? Was it?
It was a seditious conspiracy.
Okay, so it wasn't an insurrection. Got it.
There's nothing inconsistent about this. You can completely condemn the violence that occurred,
and then pardon them afterwards. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And you can pardon.
That sounds like a dog whistle to me, John. I don't know. I mean, he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. On one side, he said condemn. On the other side, he said.
How would you know? You won't let him finish what he's saying.
Everyone, I'm going to let John Paul go first, and then Soy, you can respond.
Now, my understanding is you have people who are outside of the Capitol who are recording it. Some people who are even let inside the building, almost walking in like a tour, not really causing much violence, who go and serve years of jail time, along with other people who maybe, like, if they were violent, they also served jail time. And you can pardon those people on the basis that you think that they were either serving a term that was way too long, which was the case when you have many people who were simply trespassing, for instance, spending years and years of jail time and fines, and you can pardon those people while also saying that the violence was absolutely outrageous. And Vincent, you said that Donald Trump never condemned the January 6th attack, when I just read to you the statement he released right after, calling it a heinous attack, saying what he did to try to stop it, and condemning the violence.
And then what did he do afterwards, John?
How can you
how many years afterwards?
Wait, hold on.
4 years later.
Hold on. Soy's next. Hold on.
Yeah, how can you claim that he thinks the violence is outrageous if he thinks they did nothing wrong and pardon them for it? If he's pardoning everyone, like, I agree, there are people in there that maybe shouldn't be in jail for 20 years for trespassing, whatever ridiculous thing, but someone who's committing seditious conspiracy, planning to overthrow the government, someone who beat up police officers, any of these violent rioters are also pardoned. How can you possibly say that he thinks that violence is outrageous if he thinks you should get zero punishment for it?
He did not pardon every single individual, but additionally, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to steel man your position. I'm going to assume that you are completely correct in what you're saying. There's two main problems. The one main problem is that whenever we give actions done by Kamala Harris and other politicians, we see you and Vincent constantly is saying like, oh, well, she condemned the action, so it's okay.
Wait, John,
and that's
to be
the only
clear,
proof.
in
That's
good
the
faith, I
only
asked you
defense.
this. Can you show me the person that she retweeted in this fund? And if they did something that was a violent action, I actually agree with you. I would say that is the closest thing that you have shown me to a left winger saying tacitly that violence is okay by bailing them out. I've actually said that. For all these other things, every single left-wing politician is saying this is awful, we condemn it, and their actions are not indicating of anything otherwise. They're not pardoning violent people. But if you do show me that specific fund and the specific person and what they did was violent, yeah, I'd say, yeah, that is actually tacitly endorsing violence. And I wouldn't agree with that. But that is in totality so
wait a
far
second.
fewer than
I just
all
want to
these
make sure.
examples
Hang on.
on the
Can I
right.
make sure I got this right? So if I show you a bunch of tweets from left-wing politicians post Kirk's death, who literally strawman his positions and say that he was a racist fascist, you don't consider that to be some sort of like, I don't know.
I'd say that's an accurate description of objective reality.
Okay, so the thing is like that's not them basically giving a pass, right?
No, it's
No,
not because
of
they
course
don't
not.
need to
So
example.
to
They
hang on,
don't
so to
say
get
that's
this
the
right,
only option.
hang on. I just want to make sure so I get this right.
Mhm.
So when it comes to Charlie Kirk, they can condemn the violence out of one side of their mouth, and then on the other side, they can say that, well, but he was a racist, misogynist Nazi, right? But John Paul, when he brings up, well, okay, Trump can condemn the violence, right? But also give them pardons, later on because he thought that the prison sentences were far too stiff. Why is it that you think that argument would work against John, but not against you in the same context?
Left-wing politicians pardoning people committing violence,
Here,
which is why I gave the example. If you're showing her saying, let's bail out people who committed violence, I would say, yes, that is pretty similar and something I would not be okay with, versus people accurately describing his ideology, which you say it can only lead to violence, which you actually had to caveat and say, well, it's only going to lead to violence because although everyone really understands that's not necessarily the only way you can deal with a fascist, a bunch of crazy people are going to get the wrong idea. But the crazy people on the right, when Donald Trump calls us fascists, I mean, they don't listen to him. Like, I just don't understand how you think these two things are even close to equal.
Okay, so
that's not an argument. That was just prattling.
Hold on.
The direct example was Kamala Harris promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund, and which was set to bail out protesters. And among those, you have George Howard, who was bailed out on August 6th, who was arrested on a domestic violence charge. And then later that month, on August 29th, he was arrested again, accused of murder in a shooting. And so you have Kamala Harris retweeting the Minnesota Freedom Fund and telling people to donate to it.
You don't have to explain further. I completely
like
agree. I think that was incredibly irresponsible of Kamala Harris. I think that contributed. I could say you could even tie this directly to her and other politicians who retweeted this stuff for all of the violence that came out of anyone bailed out by that fund. I would say ideologically consistent. That is not okay. In the same way that Joe Biden mass pardoned these like a bunch of drug dealers who may now go out and do more crime. I think that is awful.
And his son.
Talk about. What?
And his son.
Well, I don't know if his
son's
reformed. His son is reformed. I don't think he's ever going to commit another crime.
Yeah,
right? I think he's good. All right, Hunter Biden,
meth Biden,
2028. Okay,
yeah,
he's totally straight shooter. But the problem is, if we're looking,
that wasn't corrupt though, right?
No, I think it was. I think it was. That's the whole point.
But you voted for him anyway. But you did vote for Biden, right? And he would have voted.
Yeah, it's called. I'm able to make an analysis.
Yeah, would you have voted? Would you have voted for him for a second term post him pardoning Hunter?
I would vote for Obama for a fifth term, actually. In fact, I'm voting.
Without the trolling, can you just answer my question? If he had pardoned...
it's not trolling when we're talking about fucking political violence, and now we're going about Hunter Biden's son and all the crimes.
Well, I'm just looking for consistency. I'm just looking for consistency.
What I see here,
but every time I try to
really highlight this. I really want to highlight this.
I've answered all of your questions, dude.
I'm not cherry picking.
I
have to mention this. Okay, so this is the biggest concession of the debate.
Yeah, because
Kamala
we're good
Harris
faith enough to
actively.
say this is a bad thing. You will not say this.
I understand.
I will agree with my premise. You will not say this about Trump,
I
will
want to
you?
predicate.
You're going to filibuster, right?
I really appreciate the consistency, and I appreciate that you're willing to concede this. I'm saying this is the biggest, most substantial concession of the debate because the Antifa and BLM riots of 2020 was the largest scope and scale of political violence, sustained political violence that we've seen in modern U.S. history. And when you have the vice president, the running vice president, and then the future leader of the party posting Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out people like George Howard.
When was
That
George
is
Howard
absolutely
Shut
released?
your fucking
insane.
mouth. Let him finish, Vince.
No.
August
Whoa.
6th.
No, I'm not gonna-
August
I'm
6th, he
not
was
gonna-
bailed out.
I'm not
August
gonna
6th, he was
take
bailed
words
out.
from you.
I'm not gonna do
John,
Andrew, shut the fuck
when
up.
was it, John? John,
Let John Paul go.
John, let me ask you something.
Vince, just let John finish his thing, and then you
Okay.
can ask your question.
All right, I respect you, Corbin. Good.
Yeah, Vince. Shut up.
Shut the fuck up, Andrew.
That he's one of many. I encourage you to look into the reports themselves. The fact is that Kamala Harris posted and encouraged people to donate to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which was an organization that was bailing out these violent people. That's one example. If I looked into it more, and I'm free to look into it more after this debate and give you all the examples of all the people who were arrested under violent charges and how that is directly that's monumentally impactful when Kamala Harris is the one posting this in the face of the Antifa and BLM riots, which are burning down cities, injuring officers, killing people. Yeah, once again, $2+ billion of damage. Somehow we're going to completely ignore the $2+ billion of damage when we're talking about responsibility and political violence. We have an actor in the mainstream left-wing political landscape who is functioning in such a way that is endorsing, rationalizing, excusing, tolerating the violence that we have seen. You can say that she condemns it, but when she condemns it and posts
And that's
the
the
Minnesota
debate. We
Freedom
win.
Fund, you have a glaring contradiction on your
We
hands.
win.
So real quick, Vince, I have
so
to answer this.
we
because
win.
We're talking, you're right.